Welcome to OCL Soundwaves. I'm Tom Angeli from the Ocean County Library. In this edition, you'll meet an individual who has devoted his life to township, not just as his township clerk for many years, not simply as a one-time member of township government, including 2 terms as mayor, but also as a student of its history. And at that, a student who is also preserving what he's learned for the benefit of generations yet to come. It's a privilege to introduce to you J. Mark Mutter. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Tom.
Now, those of you in attendance for his virtual program, which you can also find here on our YouTube channel, Where Did Township Come From, are treated to Mark's ability to bring the past to life. It takes a special knack to deliver historic details as though they're ripped from today's headlines, compounded by a seemingly intimate knowledge of all the people and events involved. That's what separates Mark Mutter's monologues from the rest. This presentation of yours uncovers a really unique fact about Tom's River that I had never known, and I'm not sure how many people actually know it.
Yes. Well, our town's anniversary is on June 24th. We were established in 1767 by an act of the then colonial, the provincial Assembly of New Jersey. We were not yet a state. The Declaration of Independence was 9 years away. And so we were created on the last legislative session in June of 1767, during this period of the 18th century, in which new towns were created as the population expanded in the 1700s, one of 3 ways: by an order of the king or queen, number 2, by an order of a county court, or number 3, by an act of the people's representatives, the General Assembly, the Provincial Assembly, the Royal Assembly, who were landowning men who had the right to vote. And during this period of time, towns were created in one of these 3 ways. Most towns were created by an act of the king or queen, by a simple signature on a piece of paper, by the monarch, or by a court order of one of 3 county courts then in existence in New Jersey, or by legislative act. We always have known that through history, but what was recently discovered is this: of the towns in New Jersey that were created by the 3rd mechanism, by an act of we the people, the people's representatives, there were 7 towns that were so created. 6 of them were all created as one group in 1748 by the New Jersey Assembly, when Salem County was broken up and a new county was created out of that. And 6 new towns were created as part of the new county. That leaves one last town that was created by legislative act, and that was the town of Dover, our town. In the long history of New Jersey, only one municipality can say this: created all by itself by a legislative act of the General Assembly. We were unique in our history for that reason. We've known that from the very beginning, Tom. Tom's River is a special place. It's still a special place. We want to keep it a special place. And it's been a special place from the very beginning.
I remember well all of your planning for the town's 250th anniversary, the semi-quincentennial, as you so copiously pointed out to me on many occasions. And that was a crowning achievement for you.
Yes, it was a long time in planning. We had done an anniversary in 1992 for the 225th anniversary. But the 250th, boy, that's a tough word, semi-quincentennial, but people got it right after a while. And it was 7 years in the planning. We started working on the Township's 250th anniversary in 2010. Just people sitting in a room with ideas on different things to do. And we made the decision, the conscious decision, not just to have a one-day celebration of happy birthday, Toms River. We made the decision to have a history and civics lesson for all of us. So we had, over the course of about 18 months, through 2016 into 2017, many events, history events, civics events, to bring the town's history to life. And it was more than just a birthday cake at the end of the rainbow.
It wasn't extravagant. I don't know if you could have. I don't know if you're going to try and top that for the 300th.
Okay, well, we'll give it a shot. And although I was the chairman of it, we had so many people along the way. It was really a work of a hardworking committee of people, both in the government and both people in business, people in the community, that really put it all together to make it work. It was such a wonderful thing to sit at meetings and think that you had all kinds of good ideas, and then somebody else came to the table and said, why don't we do this or why don't we do that? And we did do that, and I think we were successful in helping people learn the history of our town. And the presentation through the library is going to be that story. How did Toms River become Toms River?
You mentioned one key word in that last passage, and that was community. And that, I think, is a word that resonates with you very deeply. Anybody can live in a town. And in fact, I'm sure I could ask any elected official, and I'll find a certain percentage of them for whom it's a job. And they clock out, I'm done, I'm retired. No, you don't think so?
Not for me.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah. When I first took the oath of office as an elected official, as a township committeeman in 1993, I was first elected in 1992. I quoted John F. Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, I applied that thinking to ask not what you can do for your community, what your community can do for you. What can you do for your community?
That's a concept that gets lost when people end up in a place under certain circumstances or because work brings them there and they're kind of fish out of water. At that point, they have a choice of either remaining an outsider or becoming part of the community, becoming part of that fabric.
Well, for me, my family, although I was not born in Toms River, we moved here when I was 12 or 13 years old. But my family has had a connection to Ocean County and to the then Dover Township for now over about 100 years. And I remember as a little kid coming to visit relatives who had property here in Normandy Beach as a kid, part of Dover Township, for decades. My father's aunt owned a small hotel, a rooming house in Ocean Gate, over now going back in history about 100 years ago. So we moved here when I was a little kid, and with my two brothers and my sister had already moved here. And when you live here and you've grown up here and you went to public school, parochial school here, then on to the county college and involved in a lot of community events as a teenager. And then as an adult, to be able to be involved in more community events, whether it be elected or not elected, to give back to the community. Toms River is a special place. It's unique in history. And I think public officials are there to preserve it and make it better for the next guy.
Your presentation is part of the summer series here called Tell Your Tale. In fact, you're batting leadoff in that. But it points to the fact that you're also a consummate storyteller. You have a way of personalizing the thing, even though it's hundreds of years old. How do you come by that talent? Did you work at that, or is it just the way you view things?
As I've gotten older, I've always tried to put myself in the other person's shoes, whether it be in a one-on-one relationship or in a community relationship, and to try to explain things from the perspective of not what you know and what you're talking about, but what the other guy doesn't know and might be interested in, and trying to make it a story. History is a ribbon. History is a ribbon, and it's always unfurling, and I enjoy unfurling that ribbon.
Let me ask you about unfurling the ribbon a little bit, because you've had a lot of furls along the way. What you have uncovered about the township and its history is remarkable. And I know that you're still working on this. How did this happen with one act that separated it from all the rest? But outside of that, can you recall any fact that you uncovered that you never expected?
I never expected. Yes. In 1992, we know where the name Tom's River came from. Thomas Luker, he was an Englishman. He settled here in the latter half of the 17th century. So we know where Tom's River got its name. Tom apostrophe S, and then as history marches forward, the apostrophe is lost to history. We still to this day do not know where the town of Dover, which was our original name until 2006, got its name. We researched this in 1992 for the 225th anniversary. We wrote to our friends across the sea in Dover, England, their historical society. Maybe they could help us. So in a reverse way, the thing that has surprised me all these many years later is that we still do not know where the name Dover came from. The theory is that Englishmen migrated here in the 18th century and then just from Dover, England, and just borrowed the name. We do know recently, in recent contact with the curator of Dover, England in the last 6 months, that there was one prominent family in Dover, England that same last name is here, and the last name is Robbins. But it's not Robbins with two B's, where the firehouse is located, Fire Company number 1, but it's the Robbins name with one B. So maybe a B was lost to history, like an apostrophe was lost to history. So that is the one thing that has surprised me, that all these many years later, we still don't know where that name Dover, the town of Dover, June 24th, 1767, got its name.
And you mentioned Firehouse 1. And that brings me to another point. I am now able, because of what you've been able to explain over the years, I can now walk these streets and realize that I'm walking over history.
Yes.
Because that is the approximate spot where the blockhouse was.
It is. Yes. The villagers in the then village of Tom's River thought that if the British during the Revolutionary War would come and attack Tom's River, they had tried unsuccessfully in the 1770s twice, that if they would come by sea. So the blockhouse was perched along the hill, Robin Street, where the river is, and it's he who takes the high ground takes the high ground. So the military thinking was, let's build a blockhouse at the highest point of the hill, and it was good thinking. But the British came not from the south, but from the east, and landed in the approximate location where the Mathis Bridge is, and marched overland the 7 or 8 miles on that Sunday morning, March 24th, 1782, and surprised the Americans from the east.
Useful to point out that this was a year after the hostilities had ostensibly ended.
Yes, the Battle of Yorktown was October 1781, but it's the 18th century and news traveled slow. There were peace talks in Paris to try to wrap up the Revolutionary War, but not just in Tom's River, but throughout all the colonies, there were still retaliations and skirmishes. So we call it the Battle of Tom's River. The truth of the matter is, it was really a small skirmish. 25 Americans in the blockhouse, about 120 British regulars, and Americans that were pine robbers, loyal to the British, about 120 of them. The whole thing was over in about 20 minutes. But 9 Americans died. And as I reminded the people that I worked with over many years in town hall, you look at the windows where we work, and 9 people died defending the village of Tom's River. We live and work in the town hall. We work on hallowed ground. Mm-hmm. The battle happened here. The battle happened here. In this general location of where we are now, the library, the town hall, the firehouse. This was the battleground.
See, these are the facts that would be overlooked if we didn't have archivists to preserve them, which is your valuable function. And with regard to that, how difficult is it to follow the thread? I mean, someone else would just look up Wikipedia and see what's in there and, okay, I'm done. Mm-hmm. That's not your way.
Yeah, well, boy, it's sort of easy for me. To spend the winter reading newspaper articles from the 1760s and then trying to fumble on a computer and having an easier job of reading something in a newspaper 250 years ago, firsthand accounts. When you read the firsthand accounts, you're putting yourself in the shoes of that other person, even though that other person might be 250 years gone. And then you think about, what was it like? What was it like to have been in that person's shoes, whether it be a friend of yours today or somebody in the past, hundreds of years ago, to try to actually think of it from their perspective. And when you do that in history, it's history in the moment, in that person's particular moment. I think it gives you a much better perspective. And to be able to read primary sources, not secondary sources, primary sources. A newspaper article from 1767, the New Jersey Gazette, and to read about what life was like. Not just the big things, but the small things. It definitely helps in being able to tell the story.
Mark, how does it feel to be a one-time elected official who has a building named after him and he's still here? You didn't have to wait till later.
It doesn't say memorial on it.
No, it doesn't.
Not yet.
Were you surprised by that?
I was shocked. When I became the clerk, the records manager, my good friend Greg Horback, who was also retired, he and I went to a seminar a couple of years before Superstorm Sandy, and it was all about records management. And the afternoon session, I'll never forget, was about how to build a record center. And you had to form groups. And it was like a puzzle. And different groups, you would pair up with groups, people from all over New Jersey, teams of 3 or 4 people. And you'd have the same problem. And then it was like how to solve the problem. And we went to the conference together, and I said to Greg, we need this in Tom's River. We had 18 separate locations of records in the government, 9 in the town hall from the ceiling to the basement, to all these rooms, to locations off-site, the police department, public works, recreation, the senior center, the youth center. And that's not a good way to manage records. The records should be organized. There should be synergy to records management. Every department should have the same system, not individual systems. And to the credit of the mayor and council, Mayor Kelleher at the time, and the town council, I said, I think we really need this. So the mayor and council authorized the idea. The property where the record center is located was municipal property. The township engineer designed the building, and the records manager and I designed the inside. We're the ones who are using it. Public records are the people's records, and not our records, and they're invaluable to people. They were invaluable during Superstorm Sandy. We helped thousands of people get their building permits, their flood elevation certificates, their old zoning permits to help rebuild their homes. And the building was then delayed, the construction of it, because of the storm, but we already had the records management internally organized compared to decades ago. And I guess it was my next to last meeting, the clerk, under our form of government, the clerk is in charge of the agenda with the council president. The ordinance says it's the council president and the clerk do the agenda. So my next to last meeting, and we're, Pledge of Allegiance and roll call and establish a quorum. First item on the agenda, excuse me, Mr. Mutter, there's a motion from the floor, and it's like from one of the councilmen who I was served on the township committee with back in the 1990s, and he makes this motion off the floor to name the building after me, and I was taken aback, quite frankly. It's a little awkward driving by the building on Church Road. I only live a couple of minutes from the building. I drive by it a lot. It's sort of awkward seeing your name building. But
you must take it as a testament to not only your standing in a community, but your contribution to the community.
Well, it's a great honor. So public service is a great honor. From the very beginning, as a 17-year-old kid, I was a volunteer intern in high school for the Township Committee, 17 years old. But I'm retired. I happily have a lot of hobbies outside of public service. Started playing golf again. But my true passion is history. I love history. I'm always reading not one history book, but several at the same time. All kinds of history, and I like to share it. The local history. So to be able to learn a couple of months ago that our town was created all by itself by this legislative act, and no other town in New Jersey can say this. There's got to be some special reason for that.
Mm-hmm. You're not finished looking for that.
I'm not finished. As I said to a friend of mine the other day, I was explaining what I had discovered in excitement. And it's like, okay, calm down, Mark. It's like, it's really, it's bothering me, intellectually, why? There's one town, our town, was created all by itself. So maybe we'll unlock the key to history on that.
You've taken us back 250 years. I'm going to take you forward 250 years, okay?
Okay.
The building may or may not be there. Let's say the building is there and it's got your name on it. Let's say there's a statue somewhere.
Okay.
Well, let's just say you're a chapter in the book about the township, or maybe you're a paragraph with a photo.
Okay.
What's it going to say? What would you like it to say? What would the inscription on the statue or the plaque on the side of the building, what would it say?
I like our town motto. Our town motto is in Latin. It was adopted on January 3rd, 1967, our 200th anniversary, by the Township Committee. Probably no other town in New Jersey has its motto in Latin, but it's what inspires me. Homo cogitat, duas indicat. Man thinks, God directs. So I guess I think a lot, I read a lot, I research a lot, but ultimately God directs. Man thinks, God directs.
The Thinking Man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tom.
This has been enlightening. For more great virtual programming, subscribe to the Ocean County Library's YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and Snapchat. And catch our other fine podcasts. Visit theoceancountylibrary.org or stop in at any one of our 21 branches. And thank you for stopping by today.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.